CBS News has learned President Biden's top advisor for Mideast Affairs has tentative plans to fly to Egypt this week. Leaders will be discussing hostages and a possible ceasefire as the tension continues in the region. Now concerns over an all-out war in that region are also growing. CBS's Nicole Sganga has more from the White House.
Palestinians cleared rubble following an Israeli airstrike on a house in a refugee camp in the central Gaza Strip Monday. It comes as Israel braces for possible retaliatory attacks by Iran and its allies in Lebanon, following the recent killings of senior Hamas and Hezbollah leaders. On Sunday, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin ordered the USS Lincoln to get to the area faster. And in a rare announcement, the Pentagon also deployed the guided missile submarine USS Georgia to the region.
I hope that the threats of American president probably convince the Iranians to think twice.
Former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert spoke with CBS News' Rami Inocencio.
If there is a war between Israel and Iran, it's going to be a war between Iran and the United States of America and Great Britain and France and maybe other European countries.
CBS News has learned President Biden's top advisor for Mideast Affairs, Brett McGurk, has tentative plans to fly to Egypt this week for a new round of ceasefire and hostage release negotiations. But citing in part Israel's deadly strike over the weekend on a Gaza school-turned-shelter that Israel says was also a terror command center, Hamas is non-committal about Thursday's talks. The group is focused on the proposal it agreed to from early July. Nicole Sganga, CBS News, the White House.
Well, joining us now is public policy professor Javed Ali from the University of Michigan. Now, the world is preparing for an Iran or Iranian-backed terror group to attack Israel this week. Explain to us a bit about how we got here.
So, Terrence and Kelly, nice to be with you. So this has been building, obviously, for months in the aftermath of October 7th. Both Israel and Iran and the Iranian partners and the axis of resistance outside of Hamas have all been engaged in this conflict, but it's been restrained to a certain point. But then going back now a couple of weeks, the almost near simultaneous Israeli targeted strikes against Fuad Shukr in Beirut, who's a senior military commander in Lebanese Hezbollah, and then just hours later, the explosion that killed the Hamas political chief Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran. Those have brought tensions to an even higher level. And then the rhetoric from the Hezbollah side and the Iran side over the past couple of weeks has been very high, and they've each vowed retaliation, but that has not happened yet. So everyone is now in a waiting game to see if the retaliation happens. And in the meantime, as the previous segment just showed, the U.S. is already moving a significant amount of capability and resources into the region.
And with that even happening, that just kind of speaks to the possibility of a war getting even worse and spilling over. What would that look like, and should there be cause for concern for people in the United States?
Well, I don't think this is not going to affect the U.S. homeland, but certainly potentially our interests overseas. But I actually don't think it's going to get to that level yet. Whatever the Iranian and/or Hezbollah response will be, I suspect it'll look to a degree like what Iran at least tried to do in April, if your viewers remember that. And that was sort of Iran crossing a threshold, launching a combination of about 300 ballistic missiles, drones, cruise missiles at Israel. Almost all of them were intercepted, mostly by U.S. Capabilities already in the region, both from the air and the sea. But I think Iran has learned some lessons over that time. And so if they try something like that again, I would have to suspect it'll be greater in volume, frequency. But the wild card here isn't necessarily Iran, it's Hezbollah to the north of Israel. And that group is far more capable than Hamas was pre-October 7th. And if there's a situation where both Hezbollah and Iran are firing at Israel at the same time, that is a scenario we've never seen before play out in the Middle East. And that's where things can spiral quickly out of control.
We heard that the U.S. is moving that guided missile submarine into the region. Do you think that's going to work as a deterrent?
I mean, that is just one capability amongst a significant amount of U.S. firepower that's already currently in the region. There's already one carrier strike group in the region, and then there's the whole U.S. Fifth Fleet and a significant amount of air assets in the region as well, out of Al Udeid Air Base in Doha, Qatar. But now, President or the Secretary of Defense announced a second carrier strike group is moving into the region, and now with the submarine too. I mean, that is a tremendous amount of firepower. But I don't think the U.S. is going to get involved in launching offensive operations against Iran or Hezbollah or other forces in the Iranian axis of resistance. I think unless things get really ugly quickly, I think these capabilities are in the region to work more on the side of defending Israel versus launching offensive or preemptive strikes against any of those groups or organizations that I just mentioned.
You mentioned also that right now we're just kind of in a bit of a waiting period. How quickly do you think someone could make any kind of move or tip the scale where things could get going?
Well, and this is an unknown, but I've been thinking about this. Perhaps Iran is bluffing right now. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of rhetoric the past couple weeks, and apparently based on public statements from U.S. officials that there are intelligence indicators that that Iran has been preparing for operations, but maybe Iran will choose not to do anything and wait to see how the ceasefire talks go for ending the Israel-Hamas war. And maybe that's a more important objective, even from the Iranian perspective, to get that settled and then not get drawn into a conflict with Israel and or the United States. I mean, it's so hard to decipher the thinking in the mind of the supreme leader in Iran and other figures there. But part of this may be a bluff. Part of it may be waiting to see what the U.S. and Israeli response will be based on this Iranian saber rattling. Or maybe there will be some retaliatory attack that looks like what happened in April, again, even though it would probably be far broader in scope. So there are a number of different possibilities. It's not clear which of any of them will actually result.
All right, we'll keep tracking it. Professor Ali, thank you.